Hi, my name is Shelby Bruce, and I'm the Director of Client Strategy here at TechnologyAdvice. And my goal today is to walk you through how to work technology advice leads and how to get the best results and outcomes out of our leads compared to some of the others that you're working or have seen in the past. So I live on the sales team, but my role in the company really is to blend sales and marketing. So we'll go through today really the objectives of this campaign, how it's all set up, what the goals and expectations are, and then really for you guys to be empowered on how to reach out, how to work them, and understand more of the process. So not at all a time for me to tell you guys how to sell your solution, because you guys will always be the experts there, but I have run hundreds and hundreds of campaigns with security clients. So I have seen teams who have had a ton of success, and I have seen teams who have struggled. So that said, I have learned a lot of best practices that I am here to help you guys with today. So here's a snapshot of what we're going to go through. Like I mentioned, some goals and expectations. I believe that going through the lead generation process is going to be really helpful too for you to understand that lead journey that they go through from the start to finish before they get to you guys. And then also just understanding who we're going after, who we're reaching out as, who they're hearing from, so that you guys can reach out and really put your best foot forward. Typically in a live session, we would save some time for Q&A, but since we're doing this recorded, I will skip that and just know that I will do my best to cover most of the questions I get in this time. But if there's anything I don't cover, please reach out to Michelle or your team and they can forward that along to me, and I'll make sure that I get you guys answers. So we'll keep that open chain of communication. But jumping right into it, let's just start with expectations and defining what success looks like. So this campaign is really set up to be a long-term pipeline generating net new lead program, right? Our goal is to find you more new leads who fit your security audience and we're within that enterprise size companies that you're going after. And so that said, a lot of these people are going to be in educational phase, maybe still top of the funnel, if you will. And so keep that in mind when you're reaching out to these people. This isn't average, but for simple math sake, out of about, every 100 leads, 2 to 5% of those leads are going to take a meeting with you over the first 90 to 120 days. Now, some teams look at that conversion different. I will say that 2 to 5% could be pipeline generating opportunities and an actual dollar amount attributed to the pipeline at that time, or maybe it's just somebody taking a meeting. But at the very least, we typically see 2 to 5% of the leads that we are sending you moving along to those next steps and having some of those steps to come to fruition within, maybe a quarter, maybe two, depending on your average deal size and your sales cycle. So that said, how are we getting in touch with these leads? What does that process look like? Well, we are first starting with our audience of about 116 million verified contacts. This has changed since we've last done this. We've acquired a couple of companies, which has been super exciting and gives us even more of a reach into that security audience. And so nearly 116 million, we are segmenting down by your targeting requirements, which we'll hit on in a little bit. And we are ensuring that we are reaching out to the right people. How are we getting in touch with them? We're reaching out by phone and email. So when we're calling into the US and North America, we're using our US-based call centers, which is really great and such a great connection point. And then we also have that ability to reach out by email marketing, which when everybody's remote can be really helpful. So blending the two and optimizing towards performance really allows us to make sure that we're reaching your buyers on their terms. And so when we're engaging with these people directly by phone or email, what we're doing is confirming that they do fit your targeting. So the company sizes, industries, geographies you're looking at, and they have a role in security. But also we're confirming their contact information and making sure that you have a phone number and an email address that you can get in touch with them. And from there, what's really cool and completely unique to TechnologyAdvice's process to any other vendor in the space is we use a process called dynamic scripting. And so what that means is we are letting the conversation we're having with this person and their role and their challenges determine the content that we're offering at the end and the brands that we're mentioning, rather than us just calling and saying, hey, do you want to receive this white paper? And our goal just being to generate a lead. We want to understand their business challenges so that we can offer business solutions and content that makes sense. So that sets us apart in the space, and the fact that we only offer content when we know that they have a challenge you can solve and they opt in to receive communication from your team. So it's really cool. Our conversations powering what we offer them. For you, that's going to mean you're going to have an easier conversation to start, which we'll touch on in a little bit as well. But after we generate that lead, after they've opted in, check all the boxes, they are going through the QA process on our end. So they go through a couple of different steps. We're first going to verify that that email address does not bounce. It'll go through the software on our end. If we made that lead by telemarketing, we're going to check every single phone call that we made to make sure we checked all the boxes. So we listened to all the recordings. And then we can also verify that lead's still there on LinkedIn. And so after it's verified on all three fronts, it's going to get passed to you as a qualified lead. We typically deliver leads via CSV, CSV file that's uploaded to you guys as CRM, or via API and just a direct integration. And you can chat with your team on how it's directly going to your system. But the next couple of slides will help to show you guys where you can find that information. So this is a snapshot of who we're targeting for you guys. So like I mentioned, we're segmenting our global audience down by your targeting. So anybody within North America, or we're also running an EMEA program, but companies who are 5,000 and above, any industry, and like I said, those security decision makers, people at a manager level and above. And if we get somebody who fits that, we're going to start calling and emailing into that audience from CTO advice. So rather than reaching out as technology advice or as Semperis, we're going to reach out as CTO advice so that we can be that non-biased third party. Again, we're there to solve their business challenges, not just push content or push our agenda. So we're reaching out as CTO advice and asking qualifying questions. So for you guys, we're asking, thinking about your current AD security and recovery strategies, what are your biggest concerns? And any of these options will qualify, unless they say, I don't know, I have no clue, none of those, I don't handle that. That will never be a lead for you. But this is a way for us to ensure that somebody handles AD in their security role and also has a challenge that you can solve. So that means you're going to have much more insight when you're following up with that lead and can personalize your conversations. So that leads right into some of our tips for follow-up. Like I mentioned, please sync with your marketing ops or your team to know where each of these custom question responses is coming to in your CRM, where that's being uploaded so that you know how you can customize that response. Like I mentioned, we're collecting each of those responses from that person when we're passing the leads. So if you can reach out and say, hey, I understand that this is a challenge with your current AD solution, tell me more about that. It's a much more powerful conversation starter than, hey, saw you downloaded this content. What'd you think? Do you want to have a chat? So it's going to give you guys a much better conversation starter. So just make sure you know where to find that information. If you use cadences, perfect. Just know where to quick pull that so you can plug and chug just a couple of pieces in and work smarter, not harder. So just a few tips on following up with these leads. We know that following up with third-party leads is going to be different than somebody who already knows who Semperis is, or somebody who's coming to your site, filling out a contact us form. So just keep that in mind, that this is really an opportunity for you guys to reach out, build that relationship, build rapport, introduce Semperis and how you can help solve the challenge that they mentioned. And you're going to want to switch it up. You're going to want to reach out by phone, email, video. Keep in mind, everybody is being so bombarded right now that you're going to want to find ways to stand out. So absolutely work smarter, not harder, but make sure that you're personalizing that outreach. So reaching out and establishing that relationship, don't assume that they know who you are or have read that content. Instead, introduce yourself and hit on how you can help solve the challenge that they mentioned. And don't even assume that's still a challenge. Maybe say, hey, is that still the case? Or how are you tackling that? But what we don't want to do is reach out and say, hey, I saw you downloaded that content from TechnologyAdvice. Because like I mentioned, they haven't heard from TechnologyAdvice. They've heard from CTO advice. And please let that be secondary. Always reach out with that pain point information you have. And if you want to reference, the previous interaction, feel free to in the end. I'll touch on in the end what a good follow-up would look like, and we'll bring it all together. But like I mentioned, use their current situation really to structure your follow-up and how you're reaching out. So it's going to help you nurture and educate that lead. If you know what their challenge is, you know how to route them and what sort of content to serve them and what sort of case studies to show them or what sort of articles you can reach out about. So have something meaningful to say. You know, if you reach out to somebody at a VP level versus a manager level, the messaging is going to be different. Maybe they prefer different mediums. One wants LinkedIn, one prefers to do business over the phone or email. So just be mindful, switch it up, and always provide value. When you're reaching out to these leads, one of three things is going to happen. Either that lead is going to be ready to chat with you and book a meeting right then and there. That's going to be just a handful, like we mentioned, that 2 to 5% because of the fact that these people are in research phase. They're coming to us researching solutions. The majority of the leads are going to be, like I mentioned, in research phase. So they're going to give you permission to either continue reaching out or maybe you don't get a response. But what that means is they are still a part of your marketable database. Continue reaching out, continue nurturing and educating that person and trying to start that conversation. And then lastly, you may get a handful who just say, hey, no, thanks. I appreciate your time, or we're just not interested, or, you know, we actually just found a solution, or this no longer is a project. That should be just a couple, hopefully not many. Just keep us posted on those, but you will get a couple where you're just going to have to say they'll never be a fit and just disqualify them. Again, hopefully those are few and far in between. And if the data is incorrect or if you run into any issues with the lead or something seems wrong, pass that back to us so we can double check that we didn't make a mistake. But to bring this full circle, like I mentioned, this should give you an idea of how to structure that first follow-up, that first phone conversation. If somebody answers the phone and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't expect anybody to answer. Here's a way to follow up rather than saying, hey, what'd you think about the content? You can say, hey, I'm reaching out because I work with a lot of companies in your space to help improve their Active Directory and their security. I understand that XYZ is a challenge for you. Is that still the case, or why is that the case? How are you tackling that? What solutions have you considered? I'm asking because I work with companies like TechnologyAdvice to help. Is that something you'd be interested in learning about? I'm curious to hear if we might be able to help you guys. So just structuring that in a different way where you're adding value and you're saying, hey, I understand that you have a challenge. Can I learn more to see if this could be something I can help you with? And that will always start a better conversation. So all that said, guys, be persistent, don't give up. We know that this is more of a long-term, we're finding those big whale-sized deals. Definitely mix up the follow-up, give it a length of time, and anywhere between 15 to even 20 is okay.